Welcome to Movie Schmovie.
Hello.
We're back.
2019, fellas.
Oh, man.
How's it treating you so far?
Just like 2018.
Really?
For me.
Strange.
For me. It's just another day.
That's kind of like turning 46.
Sure.
Yeah. There's not much of a big improvement or change from 45. Or at least that's what I'm
My
expecting.
benefits started over this year. I mean, that's really the only change in my life.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they
You
did.
know, like everything resets to zero.
Oh,
so it's like,
You're making me want to check my benefits.
what's my deductible this year?
Right.
I'm thinking of things like that.
So we're going to be talking about benefits. We're going to be talking about deductibles.
Strap in, guys. It's going to be a
We're
very
gonna
interesting podcast.
We're going to give you a little 401k advice.
Have you ever wondered what an out-of-pocket maximum was?
Yes.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Yes, I actually have been wondering. But I'm John.
I'm Steve.
I'm Ronald. I'm Ronald today.
You were reading that from a note
Yeah,
when
I
you're like,
didn't know
I'm just
who
going to
I
make sure
was.
I am Ronald still.
Ronald, have you
Legal.
forgotten who you are since the
Yeah,
last time we
man.
recorded?
New year, new you.
New year.
Let's go with a new name.
Yeah. Speaking of forgetting things, have you noticed the influx in
You just forgot it.
movies like Groundhog Day style?
Yes. Russian Doll or
What
whatever.
is that? Russian Doll? The Black Mirror thing?
Yeah.
Also, that is my fear. That's like a real
You get
fear.
stuck
of
in a
mine.
loop?
Yeah, I don't watch things like that. I can't.
You don't watch things like that.
I don't.
Like Happy Death Day.
Oh, I watch
Sequel
Happy
coming
Death
out.
Day. Nah,
That's like
I'll watch
that's
that.
Groundhog's Day.
But I
horror
can't,
film.
but there's a specific one. The one where the person. Well, this is Happy Death Day is a specific type. But when the person is like having the dialogue, and then it has like maybe they're all the same as I start to describe them. I kind of like that one.
Talk it through it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you do.
You're right. There's
Well,
a lot of those.
I hope you realize that we're not stuck in a loop because you can see there have been some changes made around here.
It's definitely not a loop.
Or
Yeah.
are we looping so far back that we don't remember this?
Oh, don't do
Ooh.
that. Please stop. Don't. Don't mess with me, man. I will shit myself in front of you.
Something feels really familiar.
Yeah.
I just can't put my finger on it.
And you're going to say, and that cat's going to do it. And that's.
Yeah.
Weird.
Nope. I will leave. I will leave right now.
But yes, the surroundings are a little bit different. So if we sound a little bit different, it's because there's not stacks of comic books and records and books deadening
And old
the-
technology.
The reverb in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, old technology. The
I love your
museum of
stacks of cables and speakers
Yeah.
and the old speakers that used to like hook onto your monitor.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
old school ones.
Oh, man.
I miss those.
They sound like shit.
We've had this conversation before, haven't we?
Oh my god.
Ron's gonna shit his pants here in a second as he takes a drink and then spits it all over his computer.
Just like what happened before.
Oh my!
Oh, God.
But yeah, I'm remodeling Schmovie Studios.
Yeah, man.
And
good,
or
man.
we are. I'm not doing this. So we've got professionals coming in and doing this. But so yeah, if it sounds a little different, that's why.
Is the coffee bar going over there?
Actually, there will be a
or-
little kitchenette type
Oh,
area
cool.
underneath the stairs, and then the bathroom, full bathroom, will take up a lot of that, and then the laundry is moving into there.
Very
so the
cool.
storage is cut down.
Yeah.
And also, I was telling Ronald that I went through item by item all the stuff that was in here. So I made like real choices. I didn't throw away as much stuff as I might have, but it was a whole new wave. I don't know if you've done this at different points in your life when you kind of go through stuff because you're moving or
Yeah.
just to clean out, and,
sure.
and you reach a new standard of what you would keep. And so the stuff that you kept last time, you now are able to go, what the hell did I keep this shit
sure.
for? But a few years later, you now realize even more, I'm never going to need this
Yeah.
again.
That's true, man.
But having a kid, there's this thought of like, maybe they're going to like this. I'll hold on to this in case my kid would like this. And I'm at the age where it's like, I have a lot of things that I know Henry's never going to be interested in. So keeping it now is really just
Yeah.
being a pack rat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
when it's done.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a cooler space to record in, as well as just kind of a family room.
That's awesome.
So we're hoping it'll double, like home office, studio, and family room.
Cool.
It's supposed to take 3 months, but you know that
Yeah.
it's not going to be the actual date. So
Anytime you come down to see if they're doing work and they shift suddenly,
Yeah.
yeah, you tack on the mother.
I feel so useless.
They were checking their Twitter.
When I do that. I feel so useless. Like when I'm the homeowner coming down to be like, well, I'm checking on what you're doing here.
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Need some water?
Yeah.
That's me every time I have somebody doing anything. I'm like, always like, you guys want some water? Like, no, we're good. Leave.
Yeah, leave
Let
us
us do
alone,
nothing.
weirdo.
They're just making up terms. Your byline,
Yeah.
we got to change the byline. Whole thing's all messed up, so the foundation's all messed up.
Yeah.
So we're gonna adjust the byline and get the squadruple.
Well, the guys we end up
Adjust that
going with,
squadruple.
the guys we ended up going with are characters. Like it's a couple of older guys that are the carpenter and the designer, and the contracting guy, and then the guy they brought in is a little bit younger, and he's really efficient and really hardworking guy. But there's this weird. You have to constantly make sure everybody has talked to everybody, because the people that came and drew the plans that talked to us didn't necessarily convey all of that to this builder who's been coming in, and so there's a constant. It sounds like they're doing something important down there, and then when you hear like something being sawed or something being taken out, you're like, I need to make sure that we have an understanding about which walls are staying.
Did you get the latest email with the new plans?
Yeah.
Where you're not taking down that wall that's already down?
Right.
When I got an assessment of, I guess the house I want to get renovated, this guy used shit so many times when he was talking to me. He's just like, this shit, you don't have to do much of this shit. The foundation. The shit is perfect.
Wow.
They don't have to worry about this motherfucker. You just got to. I was like, oh my God. It was kind of incredible. But he was a really nice guy.
He was nice, but did you hire him?
No. Not because of that, though. It was just.
Like, what's that thing that's. You don't need that shit.
Yeah.
That shit's.
Trust me on that shit.
That shit's just. They put that here years ago.
That shit can be a real motherfucker.
Yeah. It was how he described
now, this shit over here, you need to upgrade this.
I specifically didn't hire him because of the way he described his workers. Mm-hmm. He was like, I'm gonna hook you up with my Mexican friend.
Oh.
Why is that an identifier for you? He just like, my friend Miguel. I'd be like, oh, okay. Context clues would tell me that at least
there you go.
Yeah.
He's a brown. I was like, no.
Or wait till you meet Miguel to find out.
He's maybe a man.
Yeah.
Like I have a phobia of. It was very weird. Didn't hire him.
Yep.
So.
Well,
I'll let you know if we're happy with this guy's work. Maybe you can.
Yes, please. No, seriously, man.
Yeah.
That's really the only way you can do it. You can't really.
Got that word of mouth, that trusted word of mouth.
Well, you start off looking at people with.
This has turned into a construction podcast.
I know.
What you gonna do?
Before we get into the insurance rates.
Construction. That's hard to say. That's why it'll never fly.
Just adulting podcast. That's what it's about.
This is where we are in our 30s and 40s.
Well, you're very idealistic when you're like bringing people out to talk to them and get to and see who you like.
Yeah.
What we eventually went with was they seem like they're going to do good work, but also they could put us on the calendar, and they gave us a quote that was realistic.
In the ballpark.
And it was just like, that's the choice you end up making, is the person that gives you a number you like, and they're like, we can start next month.
Totally.
And you go, okay, you suddenly became miles better than the guy who seemed brilliant, but wanted twice as much, or the people that aren't calling us back now that we're saying let's go with them. So, but yeah, it's crazy to think that you just hope that you're making right decisions. And I always feel like the finishing decisions, as it gets more finished, that's when you need to go, all right, do we want to spend a little bit more money to put in nice details? But right now we're just putting in walls and stuff, so it's going to be a finished space.
Nice.
And also, we're planning on moving out of this house before too long, like within a few years. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit weird to be like, why didn't we do this years ago so that we could enjoy it?
I know.
But we're much more likely to do something like that when we're thinking about the resale value.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like
that'll pay off in the end.
Yeah. And anyway, all that to say, there might be a tiny bit more reverb on our voices.
You guys can hear it, right? You hear that?
Right.
All that just so you can hear that reverb.
Yes.
So yeah, man, I'm glad to see you guys again, both of you. It's been a bit. Well, I mean, we've seen each other at some screenings, but
yes,
not in the pod space.
That is true. Not in the pod space. I like that.
You like that?
Yes. Pod space alpha.
Yep.
That's what we can call this room.
And so it's cool, man. We can get together and talk about we'll start our the year that was conversations.
Yes.
This podcast, and we have a couple planned over the coming weeks.
January is like the month of looking back.
We'll look
when
back.
January's
We'll look
over,
back.
we should be done looking back, and we should be looking straight ahead at all the great things on the horizon.
All the great things,
Is the dead period of the year even a thing anymore? Or do people realize they can put out sleeper hits in that period now?
Man, it's a really good question. I don't think it's a thing anymore. Because there's always still a hit in that time of year. So it's like there's programming decisions where it's like people just want something in a theater. Mm-hmm. And this January, February, I mean, Escape Room comes out and it's a big hit.
Yeah.
A horror film. No budget horror film. Makes back, I think, twice its budget in the opening week. Glass comes out in, a week or so.
Which, have you seen the reviews?
I know.
Yeah,
I don't want to be led by reviews, but usually when there's a flood of reviews that are all tepid, I'm always looking for where's that person whose opinion I generally jibe with.
I have a few
that is
that I've
saying
seen
that they love
loved
it or something.
Yeah,
okay.
I have a couple
all
that
right.
I'm hanging on to.
Okay.
But just to say though that
that's a big release. Yeah,
I think that they have decided movies, whether they feel like the movies aren't great films. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case always, because you get Out and you get Split and you get Deadpool and you get Kingsman. Like these months that used to be dead, and this conversation comes around every year around now and getting into the end of the summer. But I think that window is like closed so much because there's so much coming out. People want the hot new thing that's in theaters. There's some great holdovers right now in theaters still that are doing really well. But I mean, movies can come out like Escape Room or like Glass or like I don't know how I don't feel like The Upside is going to do very well. But it's like there's a market for some of these movies, especially if they're not big budget films.
You don't think The Upside's going to do well? You don't think one of its stars is having a good moment, a really rough spot right now?
I didn't think that this film was going to do well to begin with.
Yeah.
And this has done nothing but the timing's horrible.
Yeah.
For that film to be coming out. So they basically just got to just let it rip and see what happens,
But like a fart.
Like a fart. Sometimes you can't smell it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can.
Sometimes when you
It's
do.
extended metaphor. You got to let it rip. Sometimes you can't smell it.
It
Sometimes
works.
you
It
can.
checks out. If you check the math, guys. It does.
You forget Netflix? They were like, "When are we gonna put this out? Let it rip like a fart.
Right.
Let's put it out. See what happens."
Yeah, man.
Man, Bert.
They actually have a button. Like the director of programming actually has a button on his desk that goes when he pushes it. He's like, "That's what we're gonna do."
I think if one thing this year has taught us, 2018, 2019 into 2019 is like there is no formula.
One thing 2019 has taught us.
2018 into 2019 is kind of taught, especially with like Netflix, man. It's about availability, and then like you cannot guess what's gonna do well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like a cultural thing. Like I think that meme culture made Bird Box really popular. I don't think it would have survived quite as well if it weren't for like. I'm noticing something, especially with like that. What's that? The horror film you were just talking about.
Not Quiet Place. Escape Room.
Escape Room.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Things with rules that people can explain really quickly blow people's fucking mind. Because I think about things like Purge. I remember listening to people talk about Purge, like, oh, it's just one day. You fucking kill anybody you want.
Yeah.
It happens for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Rules in movies that are part of the central story.
Yeah, it's a concept.
Drive people crazy. They're like, I'll go.
It's a hook.
Yeah, you just latch onto it.
Yeah.
For sure. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Bird Box was one of those things. It had
And Quiet Place, which I said I was
which
saying
is
by accident a second ago.
better than that movie. Can we say that?
We can say that.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get
I haven't
that
seen
off
Bird
my
Box yet, but
You can still say
I
that
haven't
now.
seen it, and I still know.
You haven't?
No, I still
wow.
haven't seen it. But I know it's. Come on, man.
Ronald, passing judgment without seeing the movie.
I don't.
Are you trying to break down the credibility of this podcast?
Come on.
Come on.
No, man. It's not. It's not
Come
bad.
on, this shit over here. You know about this shit over here. This motherfucker.
It's not bad, man.
No,
It's
I
not.
don't think. I don't.
It's not anything special, though,
But
in my opinion.
You know.
But you're right though in the sense that. So I think it's a couple things. You're right is like just kind of talking about availability and things that people will find interesting. But like Bird Box is a really interesting point because you said's right. Like you say, oh, there's something scary. You just can't see it. Like close your eyes. Like oh fuck, that's cool. But I think that there's something special about Bird Box, and it's a movie that's been in development for a long time. But like if you look at that movie seems like it was like a mathematical equation in terms of it being a horror thriller, female directed, female star, black male lead, multiple nationalities represented on the screen, young stars, old stars. It's like there's all these things, like these like quadrants. It just seems like they had like a 4-quadrant hit on their hands.
Yeah.
They have a genre film that got pretty good reviews, that's available right now to 50 plus million people worldwide. It's like that's probably gonna hit. And you're right, you don't always know, but I feel like they had a feeling that they had something with Bird Box, dropping it the week after between Christmas and New Year, when everybody's off, everybody's home looking for something to watch, and or going to the theater to see a movie.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about this holiday season, in my exposure on like my Twitter feed and social media and just word of mouth around me, as many people were talking about Bird Box as any film in theaters.
Yes.
If
Maybe
not more.
I say more.
If not more.
I'd say more.
Like people talking about Aquaman, Bumblebee, Mary Poppins, whatever. But I would say as many, if not more, were like, "Have you seen Bird Box?"
Oh yeah, I would say
Bird Box
many
is
more.
So good.
Like as far as a widespread, when you're talking about cutting
Yeah.
across the demographics,
Yes.
much more widespread across demographics. Because I'm on a couple of movie groups where, for instance, something like Aquaman comes out. There's going to be a lot of discussion about sort of every headline or every take on it.
Right.
But as far as general in my feed responses, like. A lot of people love horror, and a lot of people you don't think of as horror buffs or horror fans are still interested in what's the latest kind of scary thing.
Sure.
Everything you said, very true. It's on Netflix. Netflix has gotten a track record recently, but they've been developing it over the past few years of these sort of genre pieces, finding a home for these pulpier movies that don't try to mimic the kind of like prestige television fare as much as they do the same kind of movie you would go see in the theater or that you. So I think that, you're right, that it did seem like it somehow just hit, and it was just all over the place. And I don't know if that's a mark of what they're able to do now with a property, or if it is this kind of perfect storm of elements that made it appealing to so many people. And not having seen it, I can't really say more than that.
I don't know what I wouldn't give for like a peek behind the curtain of Netflix.
Yeah.
There's so much data there that I feel like they just not, and and they're in the business sometimes where they're buying movies after the fact, but movies that they actually develop and like really kind of have a ground floor influence on. I mean, there's like math in there. Like there's like data math in there that like, and some of them you can tell are like big hits like this. I think I've read this article where they were kind of dissecting everything about the movie, and like there's kids and there's a maternal element and there's sisters and she falls in love with a black male lead, and there's another young girl who's pregnant in the film, and there's just all these things that are like there's like probably somebody that can relate to everything. It hits so many people.
Maybe someone who's not used to seeing their character have so much to do in a movie either, or a character they can relate to, presented like that. So,
but yeah, I mean, I thought the Bird Box was fine. Like I didn't like love it. I didn't think it was anything great. I'd watch it again. I'd recommend it to anybody like just want to check out a thriller. It's fun, and Sandra Bullock is like. She's just a star.
Yeah,
man.
she's one of those.
I love just seeing her in the movies, and even if the movie's not great, she's always really good.
She holds her own, man.
Yeah. And Trevante Rhodes is awesome. I fucking want to see him in so many movies. Yeah. He's. I didn't really think much of him in The Predator, but I didn't think much of The Predator. But he's really good in Bird Box, and like he's like the male lead of the movie. Oh. Yeah, he's good, man. I think you should check it out.
I liked him in Moon.
Oh God, he was great in Moonlight.
Why couldn't I think of the last part of that? Moon.
In the moon. You confused him with Sam Rockwell for a minute.
In the moon.
So yes, this is our kind of catch-up. This normally would have been released around Christmas. We established this tradition last year of combining what had previously that been two different episodes, our Bah Humbug episode, which was a Christmas-themed episode where we could kind of be negative about some things that had happened that year, and then our Schmakesgiving episode, which used to be an opportunity to give thanks. So last year we combined that into one episode called Holiday Schmoliday. This year that was the plan again. And then the year ended without us being able to be in the same room. So we're going to do some thanks and some bah humbugging to some various things that were trends or events or personalities or just things that made up the movie year that was 2018.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody wants to get us started. I didn't know, should we start with... it seems like if you go sequentially in terms of the holidays, we would start with Schmakesgiving. But should we start with Bah Humbug so that we end on a positive note?
I think you're onto something there.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we should end positive.
Yeah,
Okay.
Since we're not really connected to any holidays anymore.
Yeah.
We'll start with our Bah Humbugs. Who wants to get the ball rolling?
I'll go first.
All right.
My first Bah Humbug is cancel culture. This whole... I don't really... I mean, it is an effective tool for those that deserve it, and then sometimes it feels like people just retroactively trying to destroy people. Isolating these incidences where people make mistakes that sometimes aren't as detrimental as they're perceived to be, and if you isolate them, they do sometimes seem like they're like if somebody touches somebody's leg in an interview, they're like, oh, they're inappropriate, possible rapist, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that there has to be some consideration for the idea that people make mistakes, and we have to have some gauge of degrees of that. I mean, surely someone who is known as a sexual predator or something like that, racially insensitive, yes, but sometimes we have to look at the whole person sometimes. Like, I feel like sometimes I've seen people say, oh, this person is racially inappropriate, they've said one thing or two things 10 years ago, and then they're getting punished for the rest of their lives for something that they may have made a mistake, and they may have changed. But you change, your perspective changes. And cancel culture is sort of...
and let's explain what you mean, because I know what you mean, and
okay,
you probably
so,
know what he means. But that use of the word cancel, someone is canceled. That was like a bit of slang that has become like... almost like, let's get the word out when somebody crosses the line or somebody unearths an old tweet.
Yes.
It's like, it's sort of, and it happens, it goes like Twitter is really where I see this in action, where I see like, this person has done this thing, or this person speaks out even in a positive way, and someone wants to remind people, oh no, this person that you think is good actually did this bad thing, and then they are canceled.
And it will manifest itself through literally everything that a person does. They will post that thing in a post constantly. It is weaponizing the internet in a way that I just have never seen before.
It's amazing to me how quickly it happens. I don't know what I think of a deserving target of being canceled is, but what I think is interesting is that notion of how knee-jerk it is.
Yes.
You know? And it's like the speed of it. In fact, last year, one of my bah humbugs was the speed of social media, that you could go to bed thinking you did a good thing and wake up finding out you're trash.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I think what you're talking about is taking the human being out of that equation. It does seem like there's a sort of collateral damage that people are willing to accept, where they don't want any nuance in their image of someone.
Yeah, it's so binary. Like when they say it's either like it's a one and a zero. It's like either you're completely perfect or completely flawed.
Yes.
But I mean, the person that's neither, where is the empathy or the understanding or just wanting to hear more or find out more? It's like it seems like you're saying, John, it just happens so quickly that there's not even a lot of times, not in every situation, but there's a lot of times not a conversation of like the reality that most of us, if not all of us, exist in that middle ground somewhere.
Yes.
You know, and like we don't need to stack and rank each person.
Yeah.
You know, like let's just figure out what the person is and who they are now. But yeah, it's really a tough thing
and I'm
to
not
navigate or talk about. But I know what you're saying.
I'm not talking about the Kevin Spaceys of the world. I'm not talking about the Bill Cosby.
You're talking about the difference between someone who has actively done bad things, because it is 100% a benefit to our society and our culture that we now listen to, or at least to me it seems this way. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses on, but it seems like we listen to accusers and victims more now. That we make space for people's stories about what has happened to them. And we have canceled and trashed and thrown out some heinous people. Like you mentioned Kevin Spacey. Like, that guy is a piece of work. Yeah. And more and more so seems like a really bad guy.
Right.
I'm on the fence when I see it with certain people. But then I think that we've talked a lot about this, how you behave once the accusations have come out, or how you behave once it's unearthed.
Okay,
that's
the thing
like
too.
For instance, the Kevin Hart situation.
Oh man,
I feel like that guy. Remember Nate Turner?
Yeah.
Was it
Nate
last?
Parker.
What was it?
Nate Parker.
Was it Nate Parker? Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was Nat Turner is the character, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Nate Parker is the director.
Okay.
He got so canceled that you forgot what his name was.
Wow.
He
was here and then gone.
They canceled the shit.
His name was Natalie Thompson. Was that it? One of my bah humbugs last year was the shitty fake apology, or the mishandling of this moment where you're supposed to show some empathy. So when you're talking about a moment of growth, a moment of I was this way and now I'm this way, I am shocked when someone bungles that moment so much.
And keeps doing it.
Like, for instance, right now we've got the Kevin Hart situation where he's been doubling down on sort of not really apologizing for these views that are horrible. Like the joke that he made, if you accept it as a joke, there's a lot of jokes that people used to make that now people realize how horrible they are.
Yeah.
But I think what we're doing is saying, let's not make that kind of joke. And I don't have a problem. I mean, I know a lot of comedians. I'm friends with a lot of comedians, and I know a lot of comedians are this sort of, they feel like they have to stand for the comedian's right to say anything. Mm-hmm. I agree on a certain level as an artist, there's that, but I think as an audience member, you have the right to not find something funny. Yeah, and for comedians to be thin-skinned about people not finding them funny, I find that to be sort of like, that to me is distasteful and ironic. But you should be free to make jokes that might ruin your career. You should be free to make jokes that are going to turn an audience off. I think Louis C.K. recently had a comeback that people have been talking about, and that guy has not, again, I listened to our Holiday Schmoliday from last year, and we were talking about him going away and basically being done and being gone, and it seemed like he was. But it hasn't been that long, and he's back, and he hasn't shown that he's learned anything. He's shown that maybe he's willing to appeal to an audience that doesn't think what he did was that bad, or he's trying to find that kind of like that audience that's going to say, I'm glad he's back, and not what's he doing back. And I think that Kevin Hart, in a weird way, just to put a bow on that thought, I think he's playing to that same idea that if he sort of avoids apologizing and stays sort of true, quote unquote, to his comedic ideals of not having to apologize, that there's a certain audience member that's going to love that and love him for that. And it's like, it reminds me of the way our current president plays to his base.
Yeah.
It seems like sometimes people are accepting of the notion that, okay, I might be shutting off an entire swath of people that would otherwise feel safe with my material.
Yeah.
But I'm playing into people that are going to love that I didn't back down, and I just feel like I don't have a lot of patience for what that feels like retro or regressive behavior to me.
Well,
so I don't know. How do you feel about the Kevin Hart or the Louis
Two
CK
things,
thing?
and I guess I'll let it go. One is I don't understand how the same resource that you use to find said comments is the same place where an apology could be found. That bothers me, but I do have this idea.
What do you mean? Like
the same resource, the internet. There's a vast place, and you have to dig to find people's things, right? You go back. You have to use tools to do that, right? So that same resource that you're using to find the shitty things that they said, you cannot find an apology at any point because he did apologize. But here's another thing that I've been thinking about.
See, I thought I saw something that didn't really look like an apology.
Well, versions of what he considers an apology, right?
But he was like, but it was that kind of "I'm sorry if you're offended" apology. It wasn't like this was a horrible thing. I shouldn't have said that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But then there's this thing where, like, I think when you make certain comments, you have to keep apologizing. And I don't know how people feel about that. That might be offensive to people. I feel like if I said something that was very offensive, like, I mean, because the specific thing was violence against your son if they were gay. Right. You'd hit him with a dollhouse. I would keep apologizing. And I know that sounds shitty to some people, but I feel like that represents something very different for a different population of people that you may not know. People are being abused, people being met with violence for their life, any life that they're living. That to me deserves every once in a while just being like, I'm not that person anymore.
Right.
I apologize. And not apologizing that you feel like that, man. That's a weird. You want to fight me? You tell me I'm sorry you feel like that. That's a terrible apology. So in general, I think that the cleanup should involve some genuine apologies and not I'm sorry you feel like that.
It reminds me of the James Gunn situation, which also happened in the middle of this period. Because, last year when we were talking about our kind of interviewer roundup, we were definitely talking about what was the beginning of kind of the way the Me Too movement was shaking Hollywood. And I would say that there's, you could be on the spectrum as to how you feel about what happened with James Gunn. I know we haven't talked about it since the immediate news hit, but it kind of seems like I don't know how that shook out. I really don't know. I kind of feel like I don't quite understand what happened there.
He was quiet enough. I think he was quiet enough that it didn't seem like he shook anything else up.
Yeah.
I feel like he the things happened. He said some things.
Yeah.
He in reaction.
I mean,
and then he just kinda let
the
it
jokes
go.
he made, like, let's go back. They're terrible. Like, I can't, like, I don't want to hang out with the guy that makes those jokes, But it is strange that it sort of quieted down once it was done. It was almost like Disney did whatever they needed to repair their self-image or whatever. It was done. But I mean, and then the announcement that he's supposed to be working on the Suicide Squad sequel for DC. Like, I don't know how I feel about any of that. It just feels like something that somebody made up. But he did apologize very full-heartedly and very, like, very clearly. And it still was not enough to stop the fact that,
Canceled.
Yeah, canceled.
You canceled.
I don't think he's canceled.
No, I'm just joking.
No, but I mean, in that moment,
not.
He did the right thing. He's
Yeah.
got to take the consequence of what they decided to do.
Yeah.
Kept his mouth shut.
Yeah.
And he has a movie coming out in a couple months that he's producing.
Yeah.
He's going to possibly do Suicide Squad 2. They're probably going to use his script for Guardians 3. Like, it's going to, he'll be fine.
Yeah, don't feel sorry for him.
Right.
But at the same time, what happened with him was a strange moment for...
I don't agree with it,
Yeah.
personally,
Right,
but
right.
it happened.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with a lot of things that happen. But
Yeah.
they happen, and I'm sure he doesn't.
You're not happy to be here.
I'm not happy. Why the fuck am I here? But you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like you're right though. It happened so quickly, and in that case, I think it happened really fast in the wake of Roseanne getting fired, same network, same parent company. So like there's things happening behind the scenes from people that are way more powerful than him, us especially, or anybody else that's on Twitter squawking about it. But I mean, like in his case specifically, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a dick, but it probably worked out the best possible way it could for him after the fact that he knew he was going to get fired.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the bottom line is you probably played that right. You know, you lost a huge gig. You got a lot of support from your friends and like the industry people and, you know, fans, whatever. But, you know, it's a really awkward conversation, and I don't really know where I fall on it entirely. But the overall idea of what you're presenting, I totally agree with. Yeah. Like, you know, just how quickly it happens. And just like being done immediately with something, you know. And I like what you said about like, you know, the same resource that you use to find the flaw. You know, you would never expend the amount of time you found that flaw in to like find something good about that person, or something that was directly apologize. You know, whatever the situation might be. Like you would just hope that same effort was put forth in that way. But I don't know, not to make excuses for anybody. Cause,
no, right.
If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Absolutely, man.
but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we could talk about this, man. It's happening so much.
Right.
And
every day.
Yeah. Every day somebody's like.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I read it, and sometimes I was telling a friend of mine who said I probably should get involved in Twitter more. You know, because there was news they weren't hearing or something, and I said no, actually, I don't know that I would, because like I look at Twitter in the morning, and there's like 5 different opportunities to get your feelings hurt. Like whether it's somebody you agree with getting torn to pieces for speaking up, or whether it's just feeling hurt that so much nuance is lost watching a back and forth, or going down a rabbit hole of a rabbit hole of a rabbit hole, seeing just the shitty stuff people say when they don't have to back up what they're saying face to face. And I do think that it's a valuable, when you talk about the tool, the resource, it is amazing what a double-edged sword that particular aspect of it is, because without social media you don't have this ability to like turn the tide against somebody, but you also don't have the ability to connect with whatever group that is that might make you feel less isolated or feel less marginalized. So there's this give and take of reading it, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know that I need to be this informed. I think I was fine before I knew that people had these types of insurmountable disagreements that they're just never going to get past.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put one of mine out there.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my bah humbugs was the whole Fantastic Beasts franchise.
Oh, that's a good one.
We spent a lot of time. I'm not going to go too deep on it, but I mean, I just like at the end of the year, I kind of looked back and thinking about like how the movie performed worldwide. You know, it still makes a ton of money. You know, they're still going to have 3 more movies apparently in this series, whatever happens. My big bah humbug with it is just like, I guess overall, how I as a fan feel like the films are being handled. I feel like I'm not the guy who is all in on the books. I like the books. That's not what got me into the character. It's the movies that did. Yeah. So, you know, just as a cinematic experience, I feel like the movies just kind of feel like a complete miss. And we've gone over a lot of this on our podcast when we talked about that movie when it came out. But I just look back and thinking about like the place that film holds in that time of year that it comes out. It's kind of like one of those event films. And like all of the Harry Potter films were, and you know, I want to say this is its own thing and like give it its own thing, but it's really not. You can tell how heavily they're relying on.
Well, they're not willing to let it be its own thing.
No, it's no way.
No.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole point, was that like they seem to really be going that direction when the first film came out, and that's a little bit of what I didn't love about the first movie, but it was going for something. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the more and more you hear about it and casting and stories and who's doing what, they just don't know what they want it to be. It's like, you know, there's not enough source there to make it a franchise, so they have to make it a franchise that lives inside of the world that they really survive off of. Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm really curious to see what they do with the next movie, to see if they course correct it all, because there's no way that this could have performed critically or commercially the way that they intended it to. But just as a franchise coming off of Harry Potter, like a beloved franchise, one of the biggest in cinema history, like a one that I personally love. It just kind of was such a letdown. It didn't like improve at all from the first film, and I think pretty unanimously got worse. You know,
yeah, it's funny.
You look at critics and just, you know, dollars speak, and that movie in the States has like really, really underperformed.
It's funny that even people that didn't like the first one and people that did like the first one, they both were disappointed. Yeah. Like you, for instance, were someone I know who was not overly charmed by all the new characters of the first one, and even you were like, they should have focused more on the new characters in this sequel.
I would be interested in that Dumbledore story, but the problem with this film for me was that it didn't do anything with the new characters, and it really didn't do anything with the characters that you knew from the books.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything with Dumbledore. It didn't do anything really with Grindelwald. It didn't do much at all. It was just a lot of spinning wheels. Like, not a lot takes place in a 2-hour and 30-minute movie.
That's part
It's
2 of
crazy.
5.
But yeah, part 2 of 5. In terms of narrative progress, like, there's not much that changes in this film.
5,
except
Ronald.
for one revelation that comes
Like, you're
up.
watching part 2, and you
Yeah.
know there's gonna. I mean, and I know we
Yeah.
talk about a lot of franchises that have big plans, but there was something about that.
Well, it was initially 3,
Yeah,
right?
and then it got
it
blown
was
up to
5.
Like somehow overnight.
Yeah, like, wow.
It's like making 3 movies out of The Hobbit. It's just
Right.
they're getting more and more insecure about what they tried to
Yeah.
do
You're
with
right.
Newt Scamander, and they're just going to turn it into Harry Potter. You know.
You're totally right. But yeah, that's one of my bah humbugs.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, my bah humbug is also related to a beloved property by me that just recently got a sort of new edition that I'm just sort of I'm disappointed that the BBC, Netflix, Watership Down, that they didn't have the budget to make a thing. It doesn't look like
Really?
the
I haven't
animation.
seen it.
The animation looks like PlayStation 2 cutscene
no.
animation, and
bad?
it looks. You know, have you ever seen a deleted scene on an animated or a CGI driven movie, and it's like it's not the finished animation?
Oh, yeah, like
it's like the
previs.
animatics.
Yeah.
It looks like a previs / video game
Wow.
treatment of the subject. Now they've got a great voice cast, and they're expanding it to a 4-hour, like it's 4-hour-long episodes as opposed to a 2-hour movie.
Oh,
so it's
cool.
like as an adaptation,
Yeah.
you can, 4 hours is to adapt a novel. You've got a lot more room than you do in a
Sure,
regular
sure.
movie. And like I said, the cast. So it just sounded so much like this is going to be an awesome thing, and then they make this thing that just. The production values are just so disappointing. Like, it's BBC, and they make some cheap shit, but they do some amazing stuff with some budgets. But I kept thinking all along, like, how are they going to handle, like, what is the look of this movie going to be?
Right.
Is it going to be some kind of quirky style of animation where you can get away without having a huge budget? Or is it going to be quaint? Or is it going to somehow, they're going to pull a rabbit out of their hat? I know that was not a planned play on words. But they're going to pull a rabbit out of their hat and do some amazing cinema quality animation on a BBC budget, but I just sort of knew the look of this film is something to really be cautious about. And then when they finally started releasing footage, it was just, it made me think, like, and this is the sort of broader question I have for you guys, but with adaptations, you sort of hope for a great adaptation of something you love, and it doesn't have to be just like the book. In fact, the original movie from the 70s that I loved cut a lot more of the book than this miniseries probably will. But it still worked. Like, there was something about it that still had this charm to it. But like an adaptation kind of means no one else is going to adapt it for a while. Yeah. And so this was such a good sounding thing that now that it's here, I kind of feel like back to the mentioning Tolkien. It'd be like if you loved Tolkien, but you hated the way Peter Jackson adapted Lord of the Rings. You would go, no one's going to make another Lord of the Rings movie for 30 years or something. You're not going to get a chance to see it done a different way for a long time. And I was really hoping this version of Watership Down was going to be like, this is the shit. This is the talking rabbits. This is going to be the treatment of the greatest talking rabbits story of all time that's going to make it relevant for a new generation. And as it comes out, it kind of feels like this is really only going to be interesting to people who were already a fan and were interested, or maybe people who watch anything animated or whatever. Right. But it doesn't have that sweep and that. So it's like, I'm both disappointed in the specific look, but I also feel like just that idea of an adaptation that kind of misses, and it kind of takes that item off the cultural table for a while, you know? So,
I mean, this does look weird.
So my bah humbug is just to the production values of Netflix's Watership Down, which I could have watched by now, and I've heard mixed feelings about what it is, but so it might be very entertaining. Maybe if I squint,
hopefully
I'll
it turns
enjoy
around for you.
Yeah, but
This does look strange.
But have you had anything like that you loved that was adapted in a way that you just said, oh well, the culture at large is not going to understand how great this thing is, or it won't be for everybody?
Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yeah.
Ghost in the Shell is one of those stories that's just really cool, and not only did they just make it the lead white and like speaking in English, and then they speak in Japanese. It was lazy in that way. It could have been really cool, and it's such a. That's why I never want to see Akira done. I mean, even though like Jordan Peele was attached to it at one point.
Oh, he was. Wow.
Yeah, and then he just kind of said no because he doesn't want to ruin it because he knows.
Smart man.
Yeah, it's just.
He just got attached to it just so he could publicly say he wasn't going to do it
like, nah.
and sound really smart.
Yeah,
He's smart.
he is
Smart move.
Can't wait to see his new one. We haven't talked about that, but his
man.
trailer looks insane. Us.
Yeah. So mine is kind of related to that.
Okay.
It's called No New Stuff ? And it really has to do with the idea that I would love to see some original things. Now, while you guys have very much relaxed my opinions on remakes and stuff like that and adaptations, we need more original content. We need more original stories that aren't based on BBC things and aren't based on novels and comic books. We need some new worlds being created. And I think that it's a little frustrating to see these things. And sometimes they're a little bit like, what they're doing now is they're just giving it different names. Like, it may be a comic book, but they're calling it The Dark Crescent or something like that. And then you realize it's a DC comic with another name that they're burying that it's based on something else. And I just want to see some new stuff, man, that isn't adapted from something, that isn't a remake, that isn't. It's just goddamn, man. Like what's been proven in the last year is that the reliance on that isn't really working anymore necessarily,
right.
Or that
like,
it's hit or miss.
Yeah, it seems to be more miss than hit a lot of the time, specifically when it comes to like things that are over 20 years old. I mean, anything that's like pulled from something, they're like, oh, they'll love this. Some executive is saying, and then it comes out.
I think there was something recently that was like that, where I was like,
yeah,
they're doing that? Can you think of anything that was sort of a what the fuck
I feel like a bunch of stuff came out in 2018 that was
the big swing, like the most recent one, I don't know if it's what you're talking about, that Mortal Engines
stuff like
was
that.
Another big swing that like...
Yeah, it's like, what? Who?
But that's that's adapted from a beloved or like a popular book, apparently.
But I would say that the book is obscure enough that slots in as what you're talking about, honestly. Mortal Engines is almost its own category.
Right.
It feels original because it doesn't. I don't think people widely know that book necessarily or knew that was based on a book. But I do think that's almost like a whole separate question that might not. I don't want to derail your discussion of saying like what happened with that movie is so curious that it was made on such a scale with clearly so much budget and like an Oscar award-winning screenwriting team working on this and it makes you wonder, like someone like Peter Jackson, is he ever going to have another success like he had with Lord of the Rings? Because it doesn't seem like this was able to tap the zeitgeist, this Mortal Engines. But
Lord of the Rings seems a lot more simple too. Like I think that like the ships in the sky and
cities swallowing cities.
See, I thought it looked cool though.
I think it's a cool idea.
I'm just saying,
it's a big swing.
I just remember seeing that first
going
trailer.
Across the countryside, very different than ships in the sky. It's like you're like, okay, these little people are just dealing with magic and stuff. Okay, that's cool.
Well, it's easier to look at these stories that are like in the past a little bit because they're simpler.
Yeah.
They're simpler. Like I couldn't name 5 characters from whatever.
Yeah.
But the futuristic stuff is a little harder to grasp.
It gets weird with people, man. It's something about it really is not to be. I keep talking about it. Being able to explain things simply. Once you get into, I've noticed something. Have you ever seen the conversations where 2 people are talking about a movie and they're like, "Man, you're gonna love this movie." There's a movie about people in the sky with ships. Why are they in the sky with ships? Well, so the world just no. Yeah. Absolutely not. I do not want. This sounds stupid, and you're stupid for telling me about it. And that happens a lot, man.
I'm not sure if I followed what you were just saying.
But that's what happened. That's
a conversation that we had that one time.
When you're talking about
when you called me stupid.
But I'm saying, like, when you're trying to describe a thing,
and
you just can't do it,
and you sound nuts.
Yeah, and it's like, and they're lost immediately.
Yeah, the conversation devolves, and you realize that, like, if you can't explain it quickly, it may not be worth.
Well, see, I feel like I lose people when I say Talking Rabbits, and it's one of the best books ever.
Yeah, but but if you Talking Rabbits, killing each other,
but they're looking for a home. That's what you're right. That's the story. They're looking for a home.
Talking Rabbits looking for a home.
Got it.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Once you get into ships in the sky,
in a future where cities have become mobile for some reason and they can't live on the ground for this reason and they don't use airships for this reason and hold on a second, Londinium or something is the name of a moving version of London. Bear with me.
As you're describing this, it almost comes to mind like when you're talking about the original stuff, you're not specifically talking about franchises. Because Mike, let me just explain. I'm not saying before you answer this. I'm asking because the big swing franchises, they usually a lot of times are coming from the pre-existing IP because the world's built already.
Yeah.
So like they can map out that. Where I feel like there have been some pretty big successes recently with the original films that aren't franchises per se, or weren't intended to be franchises.
I get what you're saying.
And were like really incredible experience films.
I'm not saying don't have these things exist in the cinematic world. I'm just saying for every 12 known IPs or related IPs, maybe have like 2 original ones. 2 that do not involve a pre-existing world.
I agree.
It's crazy, man. It's like
I'm just curious, like what you like,
Yeah, that's all. Like, I'm not saying I don't want these things. I was a little harsher before. I was like, remakes, adaptations should not fucking exist.
For sure,
I said that.
I actually was going to ask you guys, have you read about, to circle back to us really quick because this episode's already running long.
Yeah.
Have you read how like there's a possibility this is like a remake or a retelling of a French film called Them?
Yeah.
Do you that seems real legit to me?
That too, but part of me feels
I need to watch that film.
Yeah.
Like
what I knew about
ASAP.
Them, what I knew about that film, Them does not jibe with what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does not jibe with what I think this movie seems to be doing, but it might be that I just didn't know enough about Them.
Okay.
The movie Them, not.
I heard that,
some
but I don't.
People.
Because it's really weird. Like there's a lot of.
What seems weird to me would be that he would do that for his second big thing, a follow. But if there are similarities, maybe there is a certain, because Get Out had similarities to certain things too that you could point to. But it's the way he throws these things together. What I love about the trailer for Us is that it looks like it's really going for some legit horror and some legit just scenes and scares that don't seem. I mean, I'm sure it has a social undercurrent to it, but I like that the concept of the horror seems to be something that is separate from.
What he's saying,
being like a message, and I'm not saying I don't want it to be a message. I want Jordan Peele to have that angle, but I also want him to just make a good creep-tastic film. And this looks really creepy. Cool. And it's a great cast. Yeah, and I've always found the idea of yourself being the scariest thing you could come up against.
Yeah,
that's what made Primer such a creepy movie. The idea of like encountering some different version of yourself. Like there's nobody you should be more afraid of because you can't outthink yourself.
Yeah.
And you also know what an asshole you really are.
Right.
No one knows what I would do to live like I do. So that's not a fight anyone wants to see. All right, Steve, what's your...
My next bah humbug, I wasn't sure what to call this, but I guess I'll call it like the Netflix stigma.
Oh.
I was gonna. It might be 2 different humbugs that I may just be doubling up on here, but you tell me. No. This is a bah humbug.
So it's a bi humbug.
Yeah, bi humbug. Yeah. Basically, what I'm referring to is like one of my biggest things that bothers me on social media and even just people talking in the world about Netflix is when they make the comment like, "Man, did you see that movie? It was so good, but I would have really preferred to see it on the big screen." Mm-hmm. That is something that bothers me so much.
Really?
Because
why?
Because sure, I think most people would love to see everything on the big screen if those movies ever had a route to the big screen.
Yeah.
But I feel like saying that is like a backhanded compliment to the fact that that filmmaker, that cast, whatever, found a way to get that piece of art onto any kind of medium. And the one that it was delivered to you in, you're kind of accepting, but then you're also kind of smacking it in the face.
Yeah.
It bothers me. And I hear critics say it. Critics that I really respect and follow, or podcasts I listen to, but it's just it literally is a comment that like it elicits a reaction in my body when I hear it, because I'm not like
show us what that's like.
I love movies. I love film. I'm not a film critic. I have not been trained in film criticism or educated in it formally, or I don't know the technical aspects of all filmmaking. I don't claim to, but I mean. It just is so weird to me to hear somebody compliment a film and to compliment a filmmaker, but in the same conversation, insult the distributor or insult the company that made it possible for that to exist. That just it really, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And
can I tell you what I think it is?
Yeah.
And this is maybe something that I've been wrestling with. Netflix still isn't a legitimate form of media to people. Like it exists, it's there, but it still doesn't have the same prestige, the same And I can't figure out why that is. Like, it doesn't have the same. It doesn't. I think because half of our lives were spent consuming media a very different way.
Yeah, sure.
And I think for the people that have spent 80% of our lives consuming it one way, to have it be considered legitimate all of a sudden, it being up for awards, it doesn't sit well with people.
But that's like what forces you to accept that it's a real thing. Though.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
the fact that I think, you know, that they are putting out some of the best, you know, arguably some of the best movies or best TV shows or whatever. And I guess it doesn't really even just go for Netflix. I guess it's more than the Netflix stigma. It's just the streaming stigma.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm sure that, like, you know,
It's worse for
Amazon or,
others.
you know, whoever making original films, Amazon, you know, some of their movies might have that same thing if they don't put them in theaters, but they usually do because they have a distribution partner. Mm-hmm. But Netflix specifically, you know, they give Roma a run, you know, of theatrical, and people are just gushing over how beautiful it is and it's got to be seen on the big screen. Sure, that's probably an accurate statement. But I don't feel like that should be involved in your discussion about whether you like this movie or not.
You know, I also think there's another side of it that sort of rubs me wrong, is that if you're a critic and you live in New York or LA,
Totally.
it's real easy to say it's a shame that
That's
this
so
wasn't
true.
released on the big screen. But if you're living in the middle of America and you can dial up Netflix and you can see the same movie that the critics in New York and LA are talking about at that moment, that's like a very, I'm just saying, it's a privileged thing to say.
It's so privileged.
To say, oh, this should be shown on the big screen, you know.
But meanwhile, John Doe in the middle of Ohio
Yeah.
may have a fucking huge TV screen
Yeah.
with amazing surround sound, 4K, streaming Netflix original content in 4K that looks and sounds way better than that shitty theater that you might be watching it.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe
Probably.
the experience of him watching it that way is far more enjoyable to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
You know?
That,
Having to pay and
there's something
possibly
to
be
that,
bought.
Steve.
I mean, I think, but I think everyone at this table romanticizes the experience of going to see a movie at
Absolutely.
the cinema. So we're not saying that,
No.
but as far as it being this,
You're right.
this unimpeachable experience, and that you still would rather see the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there are people who act like you shouldn't see this movie unless you're seeing it on the big screen, right?
And I think that's
you owe
really
it to
what
yourself,
triggers me.
and it's like, no,
it's just like a weird.
It's like Netflix is this gift in a way. When you dial it,
Really?
when you realize something that you were interested in is out, you have this like, oh, cool, that's actually out. The problem is, so much stuff is coming out now
Yeah.
that it used to be like, well, one day I'll catch up, and then it was like, well, there's never going to be enough time to catch up, and now I don't even know what's come out and what hasn't come out. But no, I think you're right, Steve. People do say it. It's a kind of it just seems like it's a sort of default setting thing to say that is somehow preferable. You know, like the new Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah,
I was
that's
so
one-
glad. I felt a little guilty being able to watch it on television and not seeing it on a big screen, but I also was thinking, like, this is so cool. People haven't adjusted to this new paradigm of whatever
Yeah,
it's
it's part
going
of
to
what
be,
Ronald's
whatever this
saying,
new
too,
thing
yeah.
of like movies and
Yeah.
television. Like, I've heard people say, "What is Netflix? Is it movies? Is it television? Is it not either one?"
yeah,
You know, like
it's-
what is the word television mean to us?
Yeah.
What does the word movie mean to us? You know?
It's going to take a while before it gets. God, I'm conflicted about all this. But before it gets the legitimacy that it deserves, because it is legitimate, and I'm saying that, and I don't like a lot of some
Well,
of
one
that
day
stuff.
someone should do a super edit of.
Dude, man, come on, you know.
No,
what
I'm not
saying.
calling
Like,
you out. I'm saying you definitely have come
Softening.
to Netflix. You come to Netflix
Yes.
slowly over
Look,
time.
I
So
just-
yes,
I
we,
just-
we know that you're.
I think as a human being in the world, you should never get all of your things from one place.
Right.
That has to do with like the way that the politics of things are shaped, the way the opinions, even if something's too liberal, maybe something's too liberal so that when you're faced with something that's a little different, your brain doesn't go
Can't
fucking
handle it,
nuts.
yeah.
Right? So that's what bothers me. That's the only thing about it that bothers me. But in terms of the distribution, as an artist, we're all artists, man. To have something come in the way that it comes in through Netflix, we were talking about this, the comedians around the world.
Yeah.
30 specials put in your lap for people in middle America who could never see comedians.
Yeah.
Never see that type of comedian.
comedy,
Maybe that
yeah.
represents
Yeah.
them. You know, a lesbian comedian who has a very specific sense of humor that they would never have been able to see.
Sure.
I love what it's doing. But yeah, man, I think that it is legitimate. It needs to be considered legitimate. And you're right. We can now change our experiences. We can have the surround sound. We can have the 4K. And I'm doing it. You're doing it.
I know.
We're doing
That's what
it.
I'm saying. Like,
we all
people-
have these experiences now that it feels a lot more theater-like.
But you can even put in your earbuds and watch it on an iPad, and it's still fucking awesome.
Yes.
It's like if
it's still
good,
it's still the experience of like I'm watching this thing.
Yeah.
And like,
and you're part of the conversation when it's happening without it being this thing where a few months from now or maybe
after the fact,
year from now or whatever.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a weird thing that I've really caught on to, like especially like award season and like end of the year stuff. People making like top 10 lists and things like that. Like, oh, I really wish I would have caught this on the big screen. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I really wish I was driving a sweet ass car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But my car's great.
Yeah.
It's what I can do, and I appreciate it.
Right.
You know, I'm not trying to say that they're different in terms of quality. I'm just saying that like you'll always want something more in a different way that maybe it wasn't possible to have because of how bloated the landscape is for films or TV. Like how many different ways that you can get them, how many different ways they're being produced. But the bottom line is, if you watched a movie that you loved, my personal opinion is it should not be tagged with a comment, but I would have preferred to see it on the big screen. Because in reality, if that thing did not exist, you would have maybe never seen that film.
Yeah.
He or she would have never been able to put that into the world.
Right.
I get that.
You know, and that's the thing that stings me. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's just I see it so much now, and and maybe it's because it's critics who do live in major markets who are kind of spoiled in a way, and who get to go to these press screenings and experience it on the screen, then watch it after the fact, and you know, double down on their feelings. Like, I'd rather see it there. You know, I respect you, but like, I just feel like if you're talking about that, appreciate the way it was made, the way it was delivered when you first watched it. You know, and if it goes up or down from there, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But
I get that.
That last piece is everything. Like, I don't want to run on, but talking about Bird Box, like huge reception.
Yeah.
A movie that I loved last year that I feel like just completely got missed in theaters was Overlord.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a movie, if that had come out on Netflix, that movie would have been huge on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where like I loved seeing that in the theater. It was loud, fucking great musical cues. It was gory. Like, it was amazing to see it on the big screen. But I don't think I would have loved it any less had I not seen it in my house. If that would have meant that 40 million people may have watched it, because I would have loved that for that filmmaker.
There are so many people who do not have the money to go to the theaters to have these experiences. It's putting these people in rooms together that could have these shared experiences. Man, it's just, you get a little detached from it, right? You think like, you know, you've had some moderate success. We're not poor. And I remember when I was younger, we couldn't see things at the rate that I wanted to. I'd see things in the theater. I'm like, I can't see that movie. These kids can go to one place, go to a friend's house, have these shared experiences. And that's something that Netflix does, that Hulu can do, that YouTube can do, that doesn't happen, that didn't happen before.
Yeah.
And it puts it all in one place.
And a group of people that would never necessarily all have money for like Friday night for like a
$10
or $20,
$10 a month
for a screening. But I'm talking about what you would spend per person to go see the movie.
Sure.
$10 each ticket for a family of 5 people.
Yeah, $10 is low, man.
Yeah.
It's like on a Friday night, it's like $18, honestly, for a ticket.
A whole family with food, and all of them want popcorn.
Yeah.
That's like $100 to go see a movie. They can go see a movie for $10.
Yeah.
Steve, I guess I didn't think about that stuff, man, and it makes me feel detached a little bit because my life has changed.
Yeah.
That I don't think about that stuff sometimes.
I'm gonna go ahead and just throw in. I had a few different ways I could go with my next bah humbug, but I think this is a perfect segue because last year we were in the flush of the Movie Pass era. And now that is over for sure. Like Movie Pass is done. I don't know anybody that's
one of my bah humbugs. So.
But but to get into this notion of, like you were just talking about paying for these movies, like Movie Pass spoiled the shit out of me. Yeah.
Yes.
And last year when we were talking about it, we had all these ideas about how they got to do this and this and this to position themselves as this great service. They can do it, you know. But you were already giving it. You gave it a bah humbug and a thanks last year, and I was kind of just giving it like, you know, misplaced faith in their model that they were going to find some way of leveling out. But I had already said I felt like a crook. Like I had already. By that time, you know, I had the annual fee of like $80 or whatever, and I had already made or saved more than that $80 in terms of what I had done, and that was last year. So it was mid this year that it started becoming a useless service that I couldn't find any screenings I could use. But I was just so bummed about that, not just because they had a bad business model and we all thought it was cool and then it went away, but because it got me to feeling like I should just be able to pop into the theater and just go see a movie. Just pop in and see a screening.
Oh, you mean like just turn Netflix on and watch a movie?
Yeah, right. Honestly. And now I have to pay to go see these movies. And I'm like, I don't know that these movies, I don't think of this as a $13 ticket. Do you know what I'm talking about? I used to go see these like 10 o'clock screenings, like yeah, I'll go see that. Yeah. And now it's like, it's not worth.
Like, I really want to get my basement done.
Yeah, right. We got,
just put that in the basement fund.
Like, my son literally needs new shoes. He's growing very fast. So yeah, it's like I feel like this was the year, and you actually gave us a bah humbug last year, Ronald, that you felt like your life was escalating to the point where it was harder for you to stay caught up. I think for me right now, financially, I have to really figure out a plan for how I'm going to be a continual consumer of media and stay ahead of the curve and not just be this old man who's... I mean, I'll sit around with my records and I'll pull out the phonograph and I'll crank it.
Do what you gotta do.
I got a foot pedal.
You do you, John.
No, but it's like I will do that, but I felt very spoiled by that idea that I can just go see any movie and I can stay caught up. And now it's like I can't justify the expenditure of staying caught up on certain things. So it's kind of crazy. So that would be a bah humbug to me. Just the Movie Pass model, both in terms of what it trained me to think I deserved as a consumer, which was a movie anytime I wanted it, but also just the fact that what a joke that company was. Like how we were like, how are they going to make this work? They must have some plan. And then cut to 5 minutes later, they did not have a plan.
They did not.
So yeah, I think that I mean, obviously we were all affected by it. Have you guys found that feeling of trying to find some new price structure that allows you to go see movies at the rate you were doing when you had a Movie Pass card?
We're working on that. We got the...
I did the AMC.
Yeah, we did the
Stubs
AMC
Plus thing.
Yeah.
I mean, in my situation...
You've got an AMC right next to you.
Literally 5 minutes from my house. So it's completely ideal for me. Where you are... Just not that. I mean, White Marsh is probably the closest one to you. Was that 20 minutes from here?
Yeah, but and Cinemark is the closest theater, and their program is a joke.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's the worst.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Actually, I think it works out to be more than a ticket somehow. For only $20 a month, you get one movie ticket and a seat.
And like the next one's half price. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
No, it's
the rough. AMC one is on point. I'll tell you right now.
The AMC one sounds like
it's great.
If
which one?
AMC.
If Movie Pass had limited
it is.
their model like that, I wonder if they would still be around. If they'd said 3 movies a week or 2 movies a week,
maybe.
But, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Because
it was the one a day thing I think that killed them.
Man, it is such a great experience.
Because the AMC thing, you can go see any screening, right? And you can.
So I don't know. Yeah, I'll talk about it later.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
we're not going to do a plug.
Yeah.
No, Stubbs. Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, you got
I see. You have a little foreshadowing.
So I was going to go from my last humbug into my next thank you. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed that up for you.
No, you're cool. You're cool.
It's mine?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay.
So about Humbug Movie Pass.
Hello. So there's a Comcast commercial where there's a group of people in an office talking about a TV show, and you could tell by it's a silent thing. They're very far away. You could tell by the gestures, the sword fighting, the waving your arms like a dragon, that they were talking about Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. My bah humbug is it's not April.
What?
It's not April.
Game of Thrones is not back yet.
It's not April.
What's that mean?
It's not April.
It's called people binging it, catching up. Maybe
so
people have never watched it.
I don't care.
Man, you're a bah humbug.
No. This has to do with a very specific thing.
So
man.
only be excited while it's airing.
No.
Only talk about it while it's airing.
No, you can talk about it forever. No. This
Ebenezer Scrooge is here.
No, this just has to do with the fact that it just isn't on yet. I don't mind people talking about it. That's not my issue.
Okay.
It's just not April yet.
Okay. You haven't mentally prepared for the mock dragons.
Yeah, look, man.
Open your eyes, Ryan.
I haven't found
Open your eyes.
Yeah, right.
Look at me. Now look at John. Look at both of us at the same time.
We're gonna act out all of our favorite Game of Thrones scenes.
I was late, man. But I have not found anything of equal level of interpersonal relationships, anarchy, crazy special effects,
yeah,
random people being set on fire, random people getting stabbed, where I felt like I had the commitment to a show the way that I had to that show when it aired, and it ain't April, and I'm like, fuck everything else.
So you're sort of mad that they're getting you thinking about Game of Thrones this far out. Is that kind of what it is? I kind of know what you mean.
Okay,
Yeah,
there is a wave of hype starting with this.
I'm like,
you weren't being okay.
Yeah, I don't mind people talking about it.
Oh, okay.
You're
like, don't get me excited too early.
So do you think they're going to air all 6 of the last episodes in succession, or are they going to pull some shit where they like air 3 and then they wait a month or something?
I think they're going to show them. I mean,
they got to show them in a row.
Yeah.
In the fact that they keep describing them as movies now,
and like mind-blowing. Supposedly the people that have seen them have said that it
went from a rumor to like executives at HBO being like, every episode's a movie. Like it is a movie. It ain't April yet, and I'm fucking pissed. I'm just ready. I mean, like, I don't, you know, it's a lot.
I can't wait, but I'm also like so bummed it's going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it seems like maybe it should be. Mm-hmm. You know?
Do you think that the prequel situation?
I'm not even thinking about that.
I mean, I think they're gonna.
No, it's not prequel time yet.
I think they're gonna do.
It's not April 2020.
I think they're gonna be like last episode.
Don't get me too excited right now.
Last episode, first episode. I think that's what they're gonna do. That night that the last episode comes on, they're gonna be like, "Hey,
get the fuck out of here!"
Look,
they just cast it.
They have to.
You think they're gonna drop the episode? They're gonna probably have a trailer.
They're gonna have something.
They're gonna have a trailer for sure.
It's gonna be right after, because I don't think that people are gonna be pissed. Obviously, flipping chairs.
Yeah.
And they're like, "We got something for you guys, a pretty trailer, or the first 10 minutes of the first episode, or something."
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So we're working our way right into my I guess it's my last Bah Humbug.
Go for it.
And your last one was Movie Pass, right?
Yeah.
So we'll let you segue from Movie Pass into your first
Yeah.
thank in a second. Your first thanks in a second. When you were talking about that aspect of Game of Thrones and what you just said, people are going to be flipping tables.
Mm-hmm.
My Bah Humbug, my final one, is kind of a forward-looking one. I just did this math recently. Okay, Avengers Endgame comes out this year. Game of Thrones is ending this year. The Star Wars sequel trilogy is ending this year. Episode 9 comes out. The toxic fandom is going to be off the charts this year with being pissed off about how things ended, what they did.
Yes.
It's good that you don't go all in on Twitter.
Well, right. If you don't go all in on Twitter, it's really good because you don't. But it's like I'm dreading the hot takes and the piss takes on the hot takes and the reactions to the hot takes and that they should have done this and this sucks because they didn't do this. And I'm not suggesting that I think Marvel's actually ending anything, but I do think we can expect Endgame to be the last hurrah for a certain group of characters, certain group of actors. I think they are going to let it be a culmination. People have so many theories about what this should be. Game of Thrones is going to be a huge one with like just regards to they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have done that. Maybe those will just be like fan disagreements about storylines and stuff. But when Star Wars comes out, Star Wars has now become to me that is the cultural artifact that has the worst fan argument going on around it because people are still going online every day to trash Rian Johnson. If he posts like we planted some tomatoes in the garden, they're like you ruined Star Wars. As though Rian Johnson snuck off and made this Star Wars movie that no one wanted him to make. Like that was made with so much oversight and so much thought about where this is going. I'm really not looking forward to the way things operate now when there's not even any news and there's not even anything new coming out. That like Star Wars in particular has become that's like become the province of some of the worst fans that exist.
Yes.
It used to be DC. And I still think Batman fans might be the worst, but Star Wars fans are giving them a run for their money.
You're right. Maybe DC fans are because no matter what Marvel thing comes up, they'll be like, "Whoa, what about the Christopher Nolan trilogy?
Yeah.
That is superior to any movie that has come out in the past 20 years."
Or they think everybody's on the Marvel payroll or something too. Which I know you were referring to Marvel nut huggers recently, and there are those folks out there.
I don't want to hear people saying that there's been a flawless 10 years of movies,
or to say that they already know from a trailer that something's going to be great. You know,
get the hell out.
But anyway, so that was my bah humbug that kind of tied in with your Game of Thrones comment. It's just these things are going to be ending, and I really like rather than kind of looking forward to the excitement around it, I'm sort of dreading the conversations around some of these things because I know so many people have already decided how these things should go, and they're going to be mad if they don't go that way.
Right.
So bah humbug, I don't know what you call that. Toxic fandom, a prediction of toxic fandom.
Cool.
My last bah humbug was really just Movie Pass.
Yeah.
Just like the complete mismanagement, bungling, like just embarrassment that it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
they broke all our hearts.
What's that?
They broke
yeah,
all our
it was
hearts.
just like, I don't know, just completely botched that whole effort. But my first thanks is the AMC Stubbs A-list. If you live in a market where an AMC is anywhere near you or you have options, I mean, they've all pretty much renovated all their theaters. And I'm not trying to promote AMC. We're not on the take with them. But I'm just saying, screens look great. Seats look great. They have Dolby cinemas in a lot of them. They have IMAX cinemas in a lot of them. I prefer the Dolby screens. But their plan is like $20 a month. You get 3 movies a week, and it covers any showing, any time, in any of their theaters. You book it all in the app. There's no card to swipe. There's nothing. And it's just been like going from the Movie Pass experience on its way out of my life and how frustrating that was. It's really great to like come in high on this and be like, there's an AMC down the street from me. There's an AMC in every market that I ever go to in terms of like travel for vacations. If I ever want to go to a movie, or late at night or early in the morning, I could. And just for my $1, even though it's twice the price, the experience and the lack of like stress over what's available, like you're saying, when you go there and it's not available anymore.
Yeah.
It's non-existent, man. I've seen 3 movies on it since I bought it. I bought it when I went and saw Aquaman, and because that was like $17 for the IMAX screen. Do you want to sign up for A-List for $20? Yes, I do. Like I'll try it, and then I went and saw Vice and I forget what else I saw, but like it's so much easier. So kudos to AMC and like coming in at the end of the year as I'm getting bummed about Movie Pass screwing everything up and my annual membership ending. Giving AMC a shot, and there being literally 5 minutes from my house that just got renovated and is really nice and really comfortable. And they have a Dolby. Oh, no, they have the IMAX, and they have like, I forget what the other one they call it. It's like, it's not XD, but it's like, it's another screen that looks like Dolby in the sense that it's like blacked out with like the red lights that the Dolby screen has with them. But yeah, so that's my first thanks, is just the experience going from horrible Movie Pass, not knowing how to do anything with that application or that service anymore, to just being like, if I want to see a movie, I'm just going to take me a second to do this.
Yeah. Right.
That is the experience that I would pay twice the price for.
Yeah.
3 times the price. I don't know, maybe how many movies I saw.
It's still a deal.
It's a deal. Oh, God. Yeah, like I said, I spent $3 more than I would have paid to see Aquaman, and I got the rest of the month to see 3 movies a week.
So speaking of that, just a quick sidebar. One of your bah humbugs last year was the DC extended universe, their cinematic efforts.
Yeah.
You just saw Aquaman. How do you feel about DC EU now, or do you think they're on the right track? Do you think
I'm gonna say they are?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know that it's like necessarily a movie that I like. I didn't love that movie. I didn't hate that movie. It was entertaining. It had moments. Most of the people, I went with a big group of people to see it, and mostly everybody in the group at least liked it.
Yeah.
So that's a win for them. It's huge overseas. It's pretty big here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bigger than Wonder Woman is or was already.
It's kind of big dumb fun, and it's like
it's huge dumb fun.
And I think that the notion that a superhero movie should be more than big dumb fun is sort of a modern notion, I think. And I think that movies should be free to aim for more than that. But I was intrigued by just how much they leaned into the guys riding sharks, shooting lasers, like right away. That's happening in the movie, and you go, okay, this movie knows what it's trying to do. And we knew James Wan was a smart guy, and we knew that they were making this with a certain amount of course correction in mind, or at least it seemed that way. That all the hype I heard about it was them saying, oh, this has a tone that's really fun, it's really swashbuckling, it's kind of Indiana Jones-ish or whatever. And I think they say that just because there's like a scene in a temple. It didn't have the elegance of like a Spielberg action set piece going for it, but it did have some pretty fun action. Like there was that one scene, it was in Italy, where it felt like a video game level, but the way it was visualized was cool, and there were some nice little gags, but it just felt kind of old-fashioned and fun.
I love that sequence.
Yeah.
I love her running the rooftop.
Yeah.
And Black Manta like running, or no, that soldier like running through the walls on another level down of the house. It looked awesome.
And like
and
but they have
jumping
those
from building to
those
building
little gags,
and,
like old lady
really
sitting
cool.
on her couch as they barrel through, like that kind of moment just felt like this is an old-fashioned kind of family action adventure film.
You're right though. Like it doesn't have to be more than that.
Right.
But if it's gonna be that, it's got to be done well enough. It can't be kind of silly, stupid.
Yeah.
Like all silly, stupid. Where it does have enough of like the comedy. Like he's pretty charismatic and pretty good.
Yeah.
And there's enough with The action sequences and the score was I thought was really good, and like
the score was cool,
and the way they did go all in on this underwater world, and like they built it pretty quickly in the film, and like they just kind of committed to it, and I think that's what an audience be like. Okay, it's a mix of a lot of things, and it can be that to be just straight up across the board entertaining. I felt like it had a little bit of like a Romancing the Stone kind of vibe to it, like when they're on land, that sequence, like Indiana Jones maybe not as much, but like there's still that adventure vibe, but there's more of like the uncomfortable romance stuff happening between the two leads. But I don't know. I think it's a huge win for DC. I mean, like, honestly.
Well, obviously it is financially.
Yeah. Oh, huge financial win. It's almost at $1 billion worldwide as we record this.
Wow.
And fucking James Wan.
Yeah.
Love that dude.
Did it.
And listening to him talk about it, like in interviews, like it just makes me root for him even more.
Yeah.
He's not saying anything. He's not saying anything to make it more than it is. Like, it means a lot to him, and it's like playing into a lot of these like, Flash Gordon and like genre stuff that like just is like candy to him. And hearing him talk about it, you can just tell. So it's cool that like you just committed to it, confident with it, sounds like you had a blast making it, and you did your thing. So it's like, I don't need to love that movie. It was fun.
But it was like DC was on the.
I think they made a good move.
Yeah,
I really do.
And what's next? Shazam.
Shazam looks good.
Yeah,
I think
it looks like it knows what it is, and it looks like fun. It's another one that looks like it's not trying to be more than.
I hope it is.
I hope it is. Fun movie. So.
Yeah. So who's got a thanks?
Ronald.
I have a thanks.
Oh, you want to go? Let's go in that order.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, it's your turn.
No, well, that's fine. If you got it.
Jesus.
Reverse.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to the streaming service / combining of services, Movies Anywhere. Kind of talked about it.
It was one of your thanks last year.
Yeah.
I'm thanking it again.
And I wanted to actually ask you how that was going.
It's
if you
insane,
still liked
man.
It. Yeah.
Look, think about this. All the things that you've purchased over the years, they've expanded. Now it's iTunes, Prime Video, Vudu, Xfinity, Google Play, Microsoft Movies, and Fandango Now. Fandango Now is kind of stepping up. They have 4K content. Combining these services into one thing is a lifesaver, especially if you are maybe a Roku user who may have had Apple past. You may have slept with Apple for a little bit and purchased some things. For participating studios, combining these things is a game changer.
Yeah.
They're not doing it with TV shows right now, but they're doing it with movies. Cool. I connected somebody's service with it and got a ridiculous amount of movies. I suggest, if you're going to do it, play friendly with a friend that may have some purchases. And you could share. So the way that it works is you combine the services.
What is the name of the service?
Movies Anywhere.
Movies Anywhere, okay.
So once you combine the services, you can have a Movies Anywhere account, which can be accessed through a Roku, through an Xbox, and you can sign into the Movies Anywhere app from any of those devices and access the pool of stuff. So you can make 4, I think up to 6 logins. So you can have a pool of things that you may be sharing with a friend. You can have hundreds of movies that you can have access to across all these platforms, and it keeps growing. They keep adding services. They keep adding services that have movies. So I think it's a game changer. It sucks that nobody really knows about it right now, but I use it like crazy, and it's gotten better. So
that's awesome.
Movies Anywhere.
Yeah. So I don't know that I would have to do some serious organization to make use of a service like that. Like, I don't know, how do you find the time to keep all that straight? It seems like so often, and both of you guys do this, but you especially, Ronald, it seems like you have a knack for finding the time to organize shit, to make it available and organize it. I don't know. I feel like if I consume a few things, then I've run out of time to then organize it and serve it to myself.
So this is the website. All you have to do is press connect, sign in with that service. The privileges come down to like 10 minutes.
Right.
So that's anything you have through that service.
Anything you have
access to,
just
it
sign
through this
into all
portal.
these things. It takes like 5-10 minutes. Sometimes remembering passwords.
But these are purchases that you've made.
Purchases that you've made.
It's not streaming subscriptions.
No. Purchases.
Right. Okay. I remember looking at this last year.
So if you have, like I said, it works really well if you have a friend that has a thing and you have a thing. You're just like, man, let's pull these things together.
Let's get these things together.
Which I wound up doing.
That's awesome.
And I got a decent amount of stuff.
That's cool.
I'm just saying, like, if you purchase things, if you want to have a place where there may not be something you purchase all the time. It might be like, I really like the Marvel stuff. So that was one thing that I did. I got a lot of the Marvel stuff. And then that's across all these platforms now. So if I'm out, I'm like, I don't have a device with me. Oh yeah, my phone has it on YouTube because it's connected to Google Play. It's connected through Vudu. It's connected through all this stuff. So
that's cool.
Just something to think about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give a general thanks. We talk a lot about this genre on this podcast, and it's definitely a favorite genre of mine, if not my favorite genre. But I feel like there's a little bit of a horror renaissance going on right now.
I agree with that.
I think there's a lot of really interesting directors that are unabashedly delving into the genre. I think that with these new platforms and this new streaming model and this new kind of idea of like a prestige miniseries, I think there's just lots of great content that's been coming out, and there's like a few names that have emerged as people who I'm really interested in. Like Mike Flanagan is a guy who's got a relationship with Netflix that seems like it's gonna. I'm expecting it to continue to be an interesting source of just really good content. I know that sounds really dry, but I just mean I love the idea that this seems to be happening now, and the conversation about it being horror. I'm a little leery every time a movie comes out that's got something on its mind and people talk about how, it's not just a horror film, it's also this. Because horror has all along has been a way to get at some of these social questions and philosophical ideas. But I'm fine. If people want to act like they've reinvented it, that's fine, because it seems like it's getting some love. Like a lot of people that are in a position to say, no, this is a serious movie, or this is a legit piece of entertainment. You shouldn't view it as something schlocky, or you shouldn't view it as something that's just trying to make a buck on opening weekend. I mean, there are those movies and they're fun, but there's a lot of, Jordan Peele, we already mentioned, staying in the genre. I really like to see that kind of thing happening. So, and I know you, Steve, as a horror fan, you nodded when I said it. But it just seems like
I love
it's a good time.
Yeah, this is a good time for horror. And actually, one of my thanks is actually specifically Jordan Peele this year, because I feel like I look down his slate of what he has going on, and the dude is just like, he is tuned in. And like you just said, I love how he's like staying in the playground. And not going
at least
off
for now.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
So he did I don't know if you saw this going around social media, like he did like this Q&A. I feel like it was a screening for Get Out somewhere, I think.
Yeah. It's like UCLA or something like that?
Yeah, where he was talking about like stepping up, like, I made Get Out, and basically I'm going to make another movie that's a little bigger than Get Out. And I want to make a TV series that's a little bigger than that movie. Because eventually I want to fucking swing for it, and I want to make my Star Wars. And that literally is what he said. And I envy that, and I respect that, and I'm just like, that's the way to do it. Like, build this foundation to show that you can do pretty much anything successfully you're trying to do. You had a great comedy sketch series. You're hilarious. You know what works in horror. You know what's going on in society right now. You have a way of merging them together. He's got Us coming out in a few months. He's got the Twilight Zone reboot on CBS All Access.
Which I'm super
He's got
excited
Lovecraft
about.
Country.
Have you
on
heard
HBO.
some of the rumors or some of the news about who's been cast in the Twilight Zone? Like people coming in to do a one-off episode. People like Adam Scott.
Stephen Yeun is going to be in one of the episodes. Stephen Yeun's going to be in one of the episodes. But yeah, he's got Lovecraft Country on HBO. He's got the Lorena docuseries on Amazon.
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
And like Monkey Paw Productions launched like an open script submission.
Yeah.
Like, how much more tapped into it can you be, dude? Like, you're doing it right. I fucking love you. Keep doing it.
He's smart. He's funny.
When you continue to succeed, go make that original thing that's bigger and better than what they've been trying to make for years. And make it work and show why it works, because you've done all these other things right.
Yeah.
And I love listening to him talk. That Q&A that I watched.
It's really good.
Oh no, he's awesome.
So inspiring.
Yeah.
And like, I just love that guy. So thankful for sure for Jordan Peele.
He shouldn't be as accessible as he is, and he's so accessible.
I know.
It's crazy how accessible he is.
I know.
It's strange, man.
When he first started talking about his aspirations, once Key and Peele was moving, that he wanted to make horror films. I remember thinking how cool that was. Just that, like, someone's saying, "No, I want to make horror. Like, I want to do that. This is not something I'm going to do as a stepping stone.
In something else.
Yeah, or I'm not trying to view it as, I'll make a quick horror film and then I'll get to make something I really want to make. So yeah, I hope he does. I mean, everything that you just mentioned that he's working on or has a hand in.
And the Candyman reboot.
Yeah.
He's got that going too.
Yeah.
Like,
as a producer. Right.
Yeah.
But who better?
Right.
And like, if they're recognizing, I think I heard them say that it would be kind of reboot and sequel at the same time. So I have a feeling they might get into some of that. Like, they might, remember how we said that they never come back in the later movies to the end of the first movie. Yeah. So I could see them doing a little bit of what happened with Halloween, where they say let's reboot from a point where it all made sense and we can kind of simplify it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I love that trend of saying like I love the idea of a sequel having to deal with all the sequels that came before, but I do understand when it's been 20 years, 30 years, that it's a fine time to say, all right, let's clear the deck and deal with a simple story again. But I agree. What a great guy, and what an interesting career, and he's got his hand in all these projects that it's just like I want to see them happen.
Yeah, Jordan Peele, love him.
Yep.
Can't wait to see what else he's got going.
Yeah.
So,
Ronald, what you thankful for?
Oh, just people.
just people.
People and family and friends.
Yeah, just like, an opportunity every day to
good support system.
Make new friends.
Yeah, just good people. That's all. Like it's just this past year.
Just ended on a good thing.
It's good people, man. And I just feel like that stuff has really been the foundation of everything I do is good people. Mm-hmm. You know, everything I've done creatively, everything I've done otherwise is just good people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just super simple. I didn't think that I thought I would have like a elaborate. Nah, man, good people.
That works.
And I don't. Good is like a weird. We've been reevaluating what good means, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just mean people that have good intentions. And follow through with those intentions.
You mean people with a good upbringing who come from like a family with a strong name?
A couple oxen.
Hopefully,
in the background.
there's some landed gentry in their background. They've got like an ancestral estate or something like that. Good, solid people.
Good
solid people.
Good people.
Salt of the earth.
People with equity.
Let's say people of the earth. Humans, the human race.
Humans. But yeah, man, that's mine.
That's good.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, especially.
Especially looking at me and Steve.
Yeah. So I went to the gas station on my way up here, and there was this guy that was like homeless, and he's like, "Hey, you have a lighter?" And I was like, "No." And then I went in to get some gum or something. I came out and I gave him a lighter and $10, and he said, "Thank you." And he just kind of walked, and I was like, "Why did I do that?" Yeah. But I think that has to do with the idea that like so many people have helped me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like because I look like I'm a, but yeah, it's just like figuratively have helped me, and I think about helping people like that. If I have something, I'll and it should be like that. Even if you
shouldn't be judgy about
like,
the kind of help that you're
buy dope with that money. So what?
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy some donuts with. You know what I mean? It's like, why do people do that to each other? Like,
now I always think about like when you can do that, and someone wants to say, "Why did you do that?" It's like, I hope one day, if for whatever reason, I hope somebody would be kind to me in that moment, and treat me like a person.
Yeah, and that's
so easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, why not do it?
Yeah. So it's what's $10 out of my pocket? He was gonna eat with that food, so that's all I was thinking about. Yeah.
You were talking about getting through the year with good people around you and stuff, and I was thinking about one of the things that I noticed a lot this year was my dependence on kind of like pop culture comfort food, kind of. We watched a lot of baking shows this year.
So many good baking shows.
And the Great British Baking Show is one of the most like good-natured things of all time. You'll just feel good about people when you watch it, and they're all cooking their little asses off, and at the end, the best person gets a plate. I love that. There's not a lot of money. There's not a TV deal. It's like so quaint, and they actually help each other and shit like that.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
And it's great seeing Henry watching that. The only thing is, it makes you feel like you should eat a cake. You're watching it.
That?
But it's like you'll be sitting there going, "Okay, I don't think we have the ingredients to make this tri-level cake that they just showed." But so there should be like a little sampler they send out that you can like eat along. But also in the realm of just comfort food, something that this year. Not that this was news to me that I liked this show, but this year was the year that we just binged The Office from the beginning.
Oh wow!
Like 2 or 3 times. We just play an episode and play an episode and play an episode and play an episode and play, and it just goes around. And then I would come in and see Henry watching it again, but I'd notice, he's back in season 1 now, so he must have started over. And a couple days later, I'd come in, he'd be on season 3. I'd watch a block of a few episodes. It's just like that show. It definitely had its ups and downs, but as far as a show that when it was at its best, I just liked spending time with those characters and with this world. The humor on that show, a lot of it really holds up. Now, a lot of Michael Scott, if you made that show now, it would not be about how ultimately sympathetic he is. You would have to sort of show it like, no, he's a monster in a lot of ways. But I just think that it's like a sketch comedy show in that there'll just be a little scene, especially the cold opens at the beginning of an episode of The Office. I would watch just a whole episode of those little 3-minute gags, But just the observation and the characters and the way you get to know those people over the years, and that by the time you're in season 5 or 6, he's a cartoon character, but Dwight, you know him, he rings true. And I mean, again, I know this is the most basic thing in the world to say The Office, but that and like the baking shows, this year was the year that I just I used these easy to watch, go down easy type shows as a way of just kind of calibrating and being sane, and also finding that kind of family time, because we can all sort of agree on that. We can all sort of say, let's just watch whatever the last one we were watching, let's watch the next one, And I do think The Office is a unique thing. I see other people mentioning binging The Office as a sort of an activity they do regularly. I had not gone back to episode 1 and started watching, until this year. And so I was impressed. It was like a little trip down memory lane. I remember when that show was at its height, watching it every week. It felt like it was similar to the way The Simpsons was when it was at its height. And I watched that, or Seinfeld, where I was just every week. Yeah. There was going to be some comic gold.
What about the new season of The Office that they keep talking about?
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think they have the money.
It's gonna happen.
Well, okay, but it can't happen with the people that like. Maybe they can afford Ed Helms and Jenna Fisher. I don't think they can afford Steve Carell or John Krasinski.
You don't think so?
I mean, I don't know that I want to watch a show that's just the people they can get to come back.
You mean you don't want to, or you don't? I think they're gonna.
If they did like a 6-episode thing that was like an event thing and everyone came back, I could see being curious about that, but I don't know that I think it would be any good, because by the time that show ended, it was out of gas. I don't know. How do you feel, Steve, about the idea of that show coming back?
Nah.
Like, why?
Yeah, no need.
It's kind of like
just keep teasing it.
Yeah.
So people keep talking about it and keep going back and binging it.
Right, but do you think John Krasinski would come back and do that? Do you think Steve Carell? I feel like those guys don't have any interest in possibly.
I think it may actually happen someday. I don't think anytime like in the near future.
But it's going to be like Oscar and Angela and Phyllis, right? They're not going to be able to get the key players back. Well, maybe I'm wrong. This time last year, we all thought MoviePass was still going to be around, and there was going to be a Ben Affleck Batman movie.
Yeah. What do we know?
But yeah, comfort food. Sometimes you don't need to be challenged.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't need something that's going to make you think too hard.
Noel Fielding is the best thing that ever happened to British Bake Off. That is all. He's incredible, man. He just comes in and says something ridiculous and then leaves. I love it, man.
And you can tell what his mood is by what kind of print he's got on his shirt.
Yeah. It's like, you should marshmallows and just leave. What the fuck is the matter with this dude? He's so funny.
See, I miss Paul Hollywood on those seasons with Noel.
Yeah.
But the Paul Hollywood Mary Berry combination. I want them to come in and anytime I bake something, I want them to come in with a fork and like mash it up in an awkward way and tell me that it's
it's not moist enough.
It's not moist enough. Or if on my best day, I might be told it's a lovely sponge.
Yeah. Yes. And then he brings you up and Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So comfort food. Pop culture comfort food.
That's a good one, man.
I didn't really have a last thank you, but I was inspired by Ronald's. So and I thought about saying this, but I didn't want to be too schmaltzy. I am thankful for 2019. So had we done this in November, I wouldn't have been able to say this.
You're right.
I'm thankful for this year to have another chance to do a lot of things I really want to try to get done this year. And I think that 2018 gave me an opportunity to look back and some things that I didn't get done that I wanted to get done. So there's a bit of a drive this year for really going forward with a few things that I'm trying to accomplish professionally and personally, just, make myself a better person. So I think that for all the complaining that we do, or, that we're having fun doing on this podcast.
Yeah.
There's so many other things that are great, that went great last year for me personally and with my family and everything. My daughter's healthy. It's just like getting more and more of that every day and experiencing that and feeling new things in my body, in my mind, in my heart, like that I never thought I'd ever feel or that I never knew existed with her. It's just amazing. But yeah, I'm really thankful to have another year to be able to try to get some things done, to enjoy more time with good people, like you're saying, and and to also get to use my AMC A+. All while doing so.
It's all connected. It's all
It's a
connected.
good connection, man.
I'm gonna use that to see Jordan Peele's Us.
Oh.
So just tie them all together. That's what I do, John.
Yeah, that's the way you do it.
Just wrap it up.
Put a bow on it. We should have had you going last.
Who's last?
Well, was that your last one?
Yeah, that was my last one.
Okay.
So that's what you call What's your last one?
Well, my last one is very similar, and I was looking for how to word it, and I wonder if you're talking about, because it's very similar in sense of it's all about the sort of possibility.
Sure.
To say that I'm like thankful to be in this point in my life, I know what you mean about it feeling kind of schmaltzy, but when you feel like you've got a bead on some things you know you need to get done, and you actually have a plan, and you're sort of excited. I mean, like literally, like the next few months of projects that I have going that I want to finish up, I'm excited about having something to get out there and be excited about. Like there's some music stuff that's wrapping up. This last year, you guys know I did the score to a movie. A friend of the show, Mike Finazzo, came on, and I did a score for his movie. And at a film festival in Pennsylvania, the Reading Film Festival that it went to, I won Best Score. So even though I wasn't in the room when they called my name, it's cool to think that, like, okay, that's like some sort of proof of concept of other things you might have going on. It is great, but the real thing here is it's like, okay, well, this kind of gives you that little juice, that confidence to try something else or to feel good about your instincts even. And I think so often being a creative person is about, like, trusting your instincts and trusting your own taste. Yeah. And you can be adrift sometimes and wonder, like, do I have anything to contribute or do I have anything to add? And sometimes you don't have that feeling. And, I know right now, Ronald, you're working on some music that you're really excited about, and your face lights up when you talk about it.
Yeah,
I haven't heard you talk about it yet, Steve, but when you talk about, like, projects or professional things you want to do, I know you're the type of guy to make shit happen for yourself when you really get an idea.
Trying.
And the work never stops. You and I, Ronald, were texting about this recently, how many feelers, how many test balloons you put out, and how much it's about just keeping that going. Because every now and then, a project does lurch forward, or that outside voice does come in and say, do you still want to do this? Or how about this? Yeah. And you've got to be ready for those moments. I mean, we have this podcast too. Every now and then I look at the numbers of people who listen to this, and I'm extremely thankful that we have this outlet as well.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know what it would take to reach some kind of critical mass with a show like this. We'd probably have to put out episodes more often.
It's a good enough show that I feel like it.
Yeah.
I mean, but that anything could happen. I mean, there's cross promotion can help. I mean, there's a thing about, I've been realizing as this stuff's kind of been happening, you keep doing things and then it could just happen for you. Preparedness is part of it. I'm in a situation now where, like, comedy wise, somebody's putting me in a place where I could get some exposure that could put me in the DC circuit, which can get me in a place where I could get recognized. And that's one of the things that I do. I mean, not to be weird, but, like, I think that's what you have to do. You have to realize that you are the sum of all these things. You are not one thing. We're just people, man, trying to do a thing, and I will never stop.
Yeah.
And I'll support anything you guys do, no matter what. And I like doing
I feel that way too. And some days it's like, oh shit, I am never gonna stop, am I? And other days it feels more empowered, like, oh, you can't stop me. But it's funny that it's like a compulsion. And if you stopped, you really would feel,
I'd be sad as fuck.
You'd be like, what am I doing? How am I not moving forward? Why am I not, know?
Oh, and thanks to the women that support us, man. That's something that I have not said enough. Jesus Christ, man.
You mean put up with us?
Yeah. I get up, I'm like, hey.
Tolerate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, today, I did stand up Tuesday. I went to a game Wednesday. I'm doing, 4 hours.
Shit.
Yeah, podcast
This
today.
shit over here, you're doing it tonight.
I'm going to therapy Friday. I'm like, and then I'll see my girlfriend 7 that night, and she is not okay with it, but she knows that when I'm home, I'm gonna give her all the love I could possibly give her all the attention I could possibly give her.
Right.
In between playing Nintendo Switch. But yeah, there's the women that support us, your partners that support you.
Oh yeah.
God damn, man. Thank you. Seriously. So.
Sadly, Nikki would never listen to this, but I do appreciate her a lot. And one day, I'll tell her.
You've got a whole year, John.
I know, I've got a whole year.
Right.
Mark it off. Just be ready.
I mean, we've been together a couple decades, and I feel like it's about time that she heard.
You need to let her know.
I think you're pretty neat.
Yeah. Now's the time.
I like what you add.
I definitely tried to tell Erin something the other day. She's like, on her side, I'm like, I love you, and I appreciate what you do. There was a silence in it.
I'll try again tomorrow.
I was like, all right. But anyway, yeah.
You should just make that her alarm on her phone. Record it as her alarm so she never forgets it.
Right. Oh, God. But yeah, man. Seriously.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Feels good ending with the thanks.
That's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a positive thing. Good note to end on.
Yeah, it is.
What else we got? Movieschmovie.com.
Yep.
Past episodes.
Yep.
iTunes.
Yep.
Apple Podcasts.
Oh yeah.
Spotify.
Definitely.
Whatever you use to get podcasts. Obviously, you found us if you're listening to us now, but help other people find us. Review us. Leave some feedback, ratings, whatever. Share an episode. Maybe your favorite episode. Maybe this episode.
Go back and listen to an old episode and tell us if we say really offensive things that sound bad for 2019. I always wonder about that.
Quality check us. See how we are as people. Then and now.
Yes.
But that's it, man. Holiday catch up or holiday schmoliday. I don't know. What are you doing with this? What are we calling this?
I think we're calling it. I don't know.
I don't know. That's the episode name. I don't know. It's decided. We do thank you for listening. Be on the lookout. We're going to have definitely one in the queue here for a couple weeks from now. Go over some of our favorite TV shows of the year. And then we're going to close out this look back. The second episode coming from this one will be our best films of the year. And that'll be out in a couple weeks also. So
cool.
Excited for those.
Yeah. I think it'll be like week to week to week. If we manage to get together in 2 weeks to record the best of, we'll actually have 3 in a row, which makes up for the fact that we kind of, like last year, I think we only put out 23 episodes, which might be the fewest we've put out. Is fewest?
Damn.
That's a word, right?
Yeah, it's fewest is the word.
Fewest?
Yeah,
the least episodes? Yeah.
Fewest is the word.
Well, the least episodes that we've put out in a year. But that's
basically, it was like we let you down.
Yes, we let you down. But I feel like if we give you the extra episode this month, then if you add that to last year, if you pretend this came out last year, that's 24 for the year.
It's back pay,
which equals 2 a month, even if it didn't really work out that way.
There it goes.
But yeah, so there you go.
Again, math.
Yeah, math schmath. Our next spinoff.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and as always, you've made our day. Thanks.
You've made our year.
That's true. Our year. You're right.
Ronald's in a loop. Oh no!
Just sample it. He's stuck. And we're back. We're back to the present day.
I'm
guys.
John.
I'm Steve.
Oh my god. Oh man.